Hello, folks. Welcome back to the Farlander server. It's June, so I've decided to try and hop back, get myself motivated to make some content. I'm down here in the strip mines, running along, having a good time. It might have been a month since the last episode, I don't quite remember. Here we go. That's what I was hoping to find. But it is what it is. We need this on the bar too. And things have been happening. You know, we had the global pandemic, and now more stuff is going on, and part of me feels like I need to talk about it. And there's several different angles here that I'm going to discuss. And really, in trying to think of what I should talk about here and on this episode, I have to consider the medium. This is a Minecraft video. This video will be lucky to break 5 views. So, how many people is this video really going to help? And probably those 5 people aren't the people who need to hear about. No, I really did not plan well with torches here. I was kind of banking on finding some coal right off the bat. Found one little piece. Hasn't really worked out too well. And who that will help, you know? What is... They're just gone. Torches fucking gone. Great. So, there are a lot of different angles that I can discuss this with. I can try and educate people on everything that is going on and why it's so important, but I feel like you guys know why it's so important, you know? And that's why sometimes I get a little, frustrated sometimes with the culture of Twitter and constantly tweeting what everybody knows, or, well, hopefully, but tweeting to people that agree with you, and, sort of the performative aspect of that, where, fuck, I just mined this, I don't remember if I was on video, but I mined this coal here, that 1 block of coal, and I was like, oh man, it's only 1 block left. 8 vein diamonds. 8 vein of diamonds. They're immediate coal. I mean, coal does compress into diamond after all. No. So I could do that. I also bring in my expertise, as it were, as a hashtag historian, because I have a history degree now. That's right, people. Watch out. Watch out. I can teach you all about history. Or I could talk about empathy. So I think I'm going to do some combination of history and empathy. That's what we're going to discuss here today in this episode. So yeah, this is going to be, it's going to be a serious episode. I understand if you are in no mood to hear me discuss this. There are, I'm sure, better sources out there, but there's a whole lot of chaos right now, and, all kinds of shit going on, and, blah. So, I think that one of the most important things a person can possess, a person can have in their life, is that of empathy. just understanding what it's like. This isn't going to get me any closer to full and be dark as hell. I hate it. Understanding, yeah, the video portion of this is going to be, okay, I'm actually going to talk about the topic now. Understanding what it's like to be in somebody else's shoes. And this is something that can be difficult at times, because what other people are going through, it can be difficult to understand. And this is something I feel when, sometimes on Twitter, somebody will just, they're feeling really shitty today, and they'll post something up there. It's like, man, I feel like I can't function today. I feel like everything sucks. There's so much crap going on in the world, or I have all these problems of my own, and it's hard to relate sometimes to what other people are going through. People talk about, feeling depressed and depression and stuff like that. And the most that I can do for people is to comfort them, encourage them that everything's going to be fine, and to validate that the feelings that they have, are either if they're feeling sad, it's okay to feel sad sometimes, and, if you're feeling depressed or have, depression or anything like that, try and help get to, counselors or people like that who are going to be a lot better equipped to discuss this kind of situation. And what I think there's a big problem in at least, the little society that we have here right now is it's an empathy problem. I'm not even sure if I'm doing this right. If that worked, there are more cows in there than I thought. How do I... Levers already at the good place. Press it again. You have the levers like this. I can. It's a work in progress. So, empathy for what other people feel and go through. And in the case of the current protests and everything, it's understanding empathy for what African Americans have had to go through in this country since before this country was a country. It is difficult for me, at first. I've thought about it a lot more, and I'm doing an okay job of it now, but it's difficult to understand what it feels like to always be on guard, and I feel like this is something that women have to deal with as well. If I'm just a dude walking down a street, I'm not nervous because, I don't feel like, cops gonna do anything. Get out. Great. Right. I don't feel like a cop is going to do anything to me. I don't feel like, I'm in danger of someone assaulting me. I don't feel any of this. I feel no fear. Going outside anywhere doesn't worry me, doesn't bother me. And when you live like that, and you never take time to think about how other people have to live, it's just something that you just don't think about, Like, when I was a kid, I had no concept of all this stuff. Never thought about it, and that's honestly okay. Like, I was a kid, you know. When you're a kid, you're Slender-Man. Good thing I slept. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Will I get the double? Didn't quite go as well as the second 14 diamonds. That's good. You know what I'm going to use them for? Go to the end, baby. So in order to do that, we're not going to go this way. So yeah, it's difficult to wrap your brain around how other people live when it's not something that you experience at all in any way. I thought about this stuff before, but in the process of being a hashtag historian, I had a African American history class, and during said African American history class, I learned a ton of stuff. Like, it was almost taking that class. I was almost sitting here thinking, like, I just think everybody should have to take this class. I feel everybody would all be better off in society as this. And this relates a bit to what Kurt talked about in his at the end of the last. Oh God. Okay. At the end of the last Farlands or Bust episode, saying that he didn't feel like at school. And Kurt's old, so this was like a while ago. In school, that he doesn't feel that he was actually taught all the things that he feels he has learned now thanks to the internet. And yeah, I think that's true. We talked about, slavery and the Civil War and everything, but we didn't really dig deeper into all that. We didn't take some time to look at, like, how this personally affected people. And that's a problem, I think. That is a issue. That is a problem. Okay, we can turn the sound on now. That's too much for me. But hostile creatures get turned down as we're going to the end. So, in trying to understand how other people live, it all starts with education. And in this class, so for some context in this class, I went to a very white university. This class was taught by a black man who was the only, black professor that I ever had at college. I'm not even sure if I saw another one. He might have been the only one in the whole, freaking college. So, and, unsurprisingly, this class also had by far the most black people in the class. I think I fucked it again. The most black people in the class that, out of any class that I had, any class I had taken. And it was still only like 50%. And I'm lucky enough that when I went to, especially in elementary and middle school. In elementary and middle school, I went to it was still probably like majority white, but only like 50 or 60%. So I went to a pretty diverse elementary / middle school. So there were black students, there were Asian students, a lot of Korean students, there were Indian students, not too many Hispanic students, I don't think, which is weird considering, they're the biggest minority in Colorado, but, it is what it is. But, so I, had friends that were all different skin colors, and that's not really something until recently that I ever thought about. Like that, and that was just how it was, These people were black, and that's fine and cool, and yeah, there you go. And I feel like that helped a lot with making me more empathetic to how other people are feeling. But I've also always kind of been this way, like, it still sounds silly and stupid, but it's still it's day to day. People call girls chicks and stuff, and that's not a big deal or something. But when I was a kid, and I still don't really say this today, I made a very conscious effort not to say that word. And the reason I made a conscious effort not to say that word is I felt like it was demeaning, because it was making them just like a monolithic group of people and not recognizing them for who they are. So I don't know if that's the stupidest thing you've ever heard, but I still don't say that word really. So not much has changed. I'm still silly. But what that class showed, and why I was so grateful for it, is it showed the struggles that African Americans have gone. And now I'm saying this in like the most benign way possible, because everyone knows it, but it really showed, like, from black authors and from black scholars, showing like personally what it felt like to be a stranger in your own country, basically. It was only less than 200 years ago that slavery was a thing. And really, basically, I'm doing a very bad job to Dr. Roberts, and as well as the African American History Museum in Washington, D.C., which I recently, before the whole pandemic thing, which is still happening, had a chance to go to. And that was a powerful experience that I'll go back in a heartbeat and wish I could have spent my entire day there. And you could tell how meaningful it was for people. Being at that museum, which is right there, across from the Washington Monument, and yeah, it was a very cool and powerful experience that I recommend everybody. If you're ever in Washington D.C., that should be top of the list, that museum. So just understanding the empathy that we have to have, and I understand that when society was made, for until 1860 in America, black people, well, most of them, there weren't too many free black people. No, I don't think, compared to the number of people that were slaves. Were slaves, and then for 100 more years after that, until we get Martin Luther King and the Civil Rights Movement. They were intimidated and forced to vote, and, there were no black elected officials. There was none. So it was basically another 100 years where they were, enforced. Do I not have a vote up here? As, like, the lowest caste of society. And, 1960s, not that long ago. Like, Doctor Who started before the Civil Rights Movement was completed. And all your grandparents were alive when all that was happening. My parents were born when all that was happening. So not that long ago. And this extends to all aspects of society. And of course, what makes the police part so terrible is that people's lives are on the line, right? Like, when you're involved, talking to a policeman, you're in danger of getting killed. And that's how it is and how it has been right now. And it's fucking awful. And when something like George Floyd happened, it's unfortunate to be in a position where you're not surprised, right? Because it's happened before. But it's good news to see how seriously it's good to see how much that's upset people, and that, you know, people are getting fed up with it, because a lot of times I feel people think that they're, now I gotta go freaking sleep. People think that they are powerless individually, but actually, you have a lot of power as an individual. People have a ton of power, and the more people, the more power. I hate you guys. Sleeping with the sheep. Yeah, more people, the more power. I bet they can. Listen. Don't think. Probably could have jumped off. So that's the thing that I think we have to all understand. And it sucked for me being here, you know, isolating and all that, and see all the stuff going on, because it breaks my heart, you know? That everybody responds to horrible things in different ways. I'm not a huge crier. I understand the people that have been, for sure. And for me, I just feel heartbroken, because it feels like, you know, what can I do to help affect the situation? So let's pull back from the macro scale for a minute. I'm not a politician, so I'm not involved in trying to think up ways to help, you know, hold people accountable, you know, hold police officers accountable, or, you know, that problem, it really comes down to accountability. You know, when people aren't held accountable for their actions, you know, they can think they can get away with whatever they want. So, first off, it's accountability. But, you know, other than trying to press people to implement that accountability, there's nothing I can directly do. So, what can I do to help make people think more about this issue? And I think the answer is to do videos like this. That's right, folks. This video is solving police brutality. I did it. All me. No, but I think about the power that everybody has. If everybody on a small individual scale is able to talk to, you know, your family members or people on the internet or people in general, and just to educate them and get them to think about empathy. Because if people had empathy and understood more, and they're you know, there's so it's difficult to generalize people, because I think there are tons of people out there who just genuinely, like, haven't thought about this. Like, it's just not something that's ever been on their radar. Like, they're white, all their friends are white, you know, they're confused why people have problems with cops, because they, you know, I mean, I've never had a run in with a cop. I mean, I've been in the car like twice and it's been pulled over, and one was because our taillight was out, and one because we had gone to Kansas on the highway, and my dad was cruising in the passing lane and got pulled over because of that. And, you know, the cop let us off. I mean, he probably would have let us off anyway, but we also had a Notre Dame sticker where my dad went to grad school on the back of the car. The guy's like, "Oh yeah, I love Notre Dame." So, you know, there you go. And, you know, my mom tells a story of, like, when, I mean, this is like 30 years ago, at like a baseball game, a security guy waved her through. It was like, "Oh, you know, you're a good Catholic girl. I don't think you'd cause any problems." And, you know, at first, you know, that's funny, and you laugh, like, "Oh, yeah, you know, that's how you're a Catholic, it lets you through." But then you're like, that wouldn't happen to black people, right? You know, no security guard's ever like, oh yeah, see a black person walk up, it's like, oh, you must be a good Christian or something. I'm gonna like that doesn't happen as much. And so my original point I was gonna try to say is I think there's people that just haven't thought about the issue, and I think there are hopefully a lot more of those people than the malicious actors out there who deliberately don't care about other people. It's kind of the libertarian philosophy of I've got mine. I don't care about other people. Like, is life good for me? And they're like, sure. And then other people can get fucked, right? Like, I don't care about other people. So I think if more people just were able to educate themselves on the history of our society and how, especially in the South and other places, sorry, it's true, but I mean in the North too, absolutely in the North too. Like, cities would, all the black people would live in the urban city center because that's where, like, the working class jobs were. All the white people would move to, like, suburban towns that would, like, ring the inner city. And, they'd have sundown rules where you can't enter that town after sundown, basically keeping, like, all the black people, like, trapped in the center of the city. And then, police officers would live in, like, a tiny little corner of the city, and they'd all be white. So you'd have, these white police officers, that as far away as they can, policing, like, the center. So yeah, it's fucked. It's all bad. But I'm always encouraged by, and it takes a very long time, but I promise, as a society, we are getting better and better. And you can look at all the chaos going on right now, and it can make you feel awful. But for me, seeing that maybe people are fed up with this, and some changes have to come, that makes me hopeful and optimistic. Because, throughout history, it's a tale of, people getting fed up with how it is and the inequalities in the current society and demanding a change. And when the change comes, things really do gradually, very gradually. How is this man? What is happening? How is there a guy up there? How is there a bait? I don't fucking know. Yeah, this place might be near the end. It might reset the server, probably. Actually, no one's talked about that, but something tells me that might be in the cards. Yeah, just... Yeah, so it makes me hopeful that things will continue to get better. Things will continue to improve for people in society. For me, I check all the boxes. Straight white dude. I mean, and even in the past 15 years, being a nerd's suddenly becomes super cool. So I mean, there is nowhere higher I can go, baby. Top of the totem pole. Straight white dude, loves the Avengers. That's it, number one. So I'm fine. But for tons of people that are not fine. But, we've already seen, with the legalization of gay marriage in the past, decade across the country, and all this stuff, things really are getting better. And the better things get, the more angry, I think, we all become at the things that are still lagging behind. So, the whole point of this country is that we're all trying to, become a more better, perfect society. And that's the thing that I absolutely love the most about this country. Most countries in the world exist just because, like, Germany exists because that's where German people live. Like, that's why Germany exists. But the reason that we exist in America is because, we had a vision of a equitable and just society. And, of course, when the people were coming up with that, they all had slaves. And it took 90 years until the slavery was outlawed. But if you look back, we really have been very painfully moving towards becoming living up to that ideal of being a just and equitable society for all. So that's why I'm hopeful that things will continue to improve and continue to get better. And, educate yourself, gently talk to people who aren't as knowledgeable, even though they're staying safe during a global pandemic. If you feel called to go out and protest peacefully, by all means, please go do that. That's all good. Don't light anything on fire, though. Don't do that. It's bad. And yeah, so that's my message. It feels good just to say this to the few people that will hear it. I did donate to Black Lives Matter, lots of places that you can donate, so people that are smarter and more connected than me can actually help with these issues and these problems. And if you want to educate yourself on the history aspect, and don't worry everybody, I also have a data science degree, okay? I got my STEM in there, but what is the point of STEM, science, and technology if we do not have intelligence and ethics in order to guide our science and technology? So don't sleep on the humanities, alright? Don't fucking sleep on the humanities. So yeah, if you want to educate yourself more on the history of racism in society, there was a very cool project last summer, New York Times, called I think it was 1619 Project, maybe the 1613 Project. It's one of those two. Basically, imagining if we said the birth of America was when the first slaves came to Virginia, and just looking at all the different ways that black people have been discriminated against, but still overcome. So go read that. They did a few podcasts I never listened to, but I might go listen to them now. Or if you want to watch a TV show, watch it. You'll learn a lot. I promise. So thank you for bearing with me. I hope I said all the right things. See you soon.